No, seriously, this is the Brad Pitt halo we never knew we wanted.
Yeah.
We just saw Ad Astra. Yes, if you were unfamiliar with this movie, it is a sci-fi spectacular, if I could call it that, starring the one and only Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt.
And literally, we want to just start it off right here by saying this movie wouldn't work without Brad Pitt. This is just Brad Pitt all the way. He's carrying the movie. It's just Pitt, like all Pitt. Pitt the experience. Pitt expanded. I fell into the pit.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Mark, are you all right?
Wow.
Are you okay?
Nice one. Very good, Ransom. Yeah, so good job, Brad Pitt. You carried this movie. You were great in it. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, there's a couple of other things that we wanted to celebrate before we get into some cons with the movie that maybe it just missed out on from being that film of the year, right?
Yeah.
Ransom, what were your two big wins?
Right. So, to say, just flat out, cinematography. Oh my goodness. It's amazing. The opening of this movie literally starts with like what looks to be like the sun kind of like doing a revolving, motion or like across the camera, across the screen. And each time it moves, it like changes color subtly, and it's just so
like a solar flare.
Yeah,
but into a reflection.
Yeah, and you get such vivid colors in like when they're in dark space, and that's the coolest thing. And going into, along with the cinematography, that really adds to the suspense. There are very suspenseful moments where it really captures this idea of, like you mess up one little thing in space, you're gone for.
Like X, Y, and Z happens, you may or may not be able to control it, and you're just along for the ride until you hopefully catch a lucky break, and then you fix it. Every great sci-fi movie needs not only an incredible score, but a score that matches what the theme of the movie is going after. The sense of metaphors and allegories for the sense of isolation, this theme of dealing with what your reason is for being, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what happens to someone when they get stir crazy over time. And a little bit of Moby Dick in here, of course, with some anti-government themes. But the soundtrack explores this in a way that it's not preaching at you. It's like, it's very 2001. I get this sense of an odyssey when I'm watching this movie happen. And to go the next level, the other big thing that I loved is like the technology of the movie. The movie does this thing that I love in a lot of great sci-fi, much like The Expanse, and to really go into left field, Ghost in the Shell, where there's this sense of you could see this world in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's there on the horizon. You can see it, and that helps you get into the universe, and it makes it feel more lived in. Many of the things that we love from the movie, where it's cheeky sense of humor, where it's like, hot towel and it's $125, on your SpaceX trip up to the moon. You can see this kind of shit happening right around the corner. And the fact that it does these things, it helps you to get into the messaging.
Yeah.
So while we love those things, the movie just makes some trips, a few trips here towards the end. And I think we had different ways of processing it that we hated more or less. So why don't we just start out with Liv Tyler and why was she here? Go.
Yeah. So Liv Tyler,
she's fine. She's great.
She's great. Lord of the Rings.
Don't see Hellboy.
Why do you fight for those who hate and fear you?
Yeah, don't see Hellboy.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a big part in this. She really kind of sets up the previous life of Roy, which is Brad Pitt's character.
The romantic interest to tie him to Earth.
Yeah. And that kind of sets up, why is he doing this? What is his purpose for doing this objective?
What does he want to maybe come back home to?
Exactly. And while that's all nice and good, Liv Tyler does come back at the end of the movie, but it doesn't really feel like that really matters. It's not necessarily explored a lot, and it's just one of those things that kind of pops back up, and it's like, hey, I'm over here. Hello.
Yeah, remember me?
Yeah, and it's like, oh, that wasn't my focus on this movie, but okay.
And this also goes into another big miss of the movie, and that's the sense of time, which is so funny because if you can look past the practicality of the sense of time travel, right, in literal years, the movie makes you feel isolation. It makes you feel like a lot of time has passed. But when you look at the ending, and when this character walks back up, and she looks almost the same way she did from the beginning of the movie, it wrecks your sense of time. Because as you know, with space travel, years in Earth time, and light traveling towards the end of the solar system is a massive amount of time differential. So you need to explore these things in a movie that feels like a space odyssey. It's one of the things that Interstellar did right. But they did not do that here, and that practicality ruins it.
Yeah.
When the movie is supposed to be practical.
Yeah. And a part of it does feel like it's trying not to be a lot like Interstellar.
It really does.
But I do feel like there are some things that are required to be common to what Interstellar was. You know, and it's just the simple science of things.
And when I look at this movie, it's so funny that it doesn't want to be Interstellar because for most of it, and if take away the weird ending where you get this sense of time wrecked and characters are just kind of thrown back in there, the movie actually does out Interstellar better than Interstellar. The themes are better reinforced in Ad Astra than I think Interstellar.
Yeah.
Interstellar, you know, they take plot jumps to get to here and there, and then they preach at you. This movie doesn't preach, you know? So it's funny that it's so concerned with not preaching and being good at what it's saying, yet wrecks the one thing to tie it into all together at the end. That ending just doesn't work for this movie. And you know what every film fan says about a good movie. The ending needs to work. You need to cap it off at the right way. And this movie doesn't have that here.
Yeah. Which isn't to say that it doesn't find its footing in the message, because it is all there. It's just the way they get down to the end is just...
There's a difference between works and succeeds.
Yes. Yeah.
So when we come down to it, Ransom, where are we at on this movie? I think I came in halfway and thought it was going to be one thing, and then with the ending kind of brought it somewhere else. What are you thinking? Off the cuff.
I really like this movie. There's so much of this that I'm like, yeah, that's so dope. Oh man, that's so cool. But it's that finish, you know? You can't have a good acrobat without a nice finishing touch. I'd say this comes to a 9 out of 10.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit lower, 8 out of 10 for my score here. And I think it's just really because there's so much the movie does right, and considering the length of time, the fact that a lot of people are going to be needing something else, and that cap to help finish it off the right way, the lack of the sense of time just bugs with me so much.
Yeah.
So I think right now I have to give it an 8, but because those themes are so strong, I could watch this a year from now, really get into it at home, watch it with Katie maybe, and maybe it bumps up to a 9 or a 10. I don't know, because this movie, while a lot of people aren't talking about it, it's a shame because there's a lot to take away from this movie that it did right. I did enjoy my time with it, and even if we may be 9-8 debating on the score, I still think it's a worthy watch. I think you should go out to the theaters to check it out. I think it's worth your time because it's a really interesting movie on the archetypes of government, the individual, finding what you want to do, your place in life, what does it all mean? There are just so many themes here that the movie reinforces beautifully. Without spoiling, I can't go into it.
Yeah. And what else are you going to see this weekend? Rambo?
Yeah, we might go see Rambo. We'll see how that one goes. So thank you guys for tuning in and watching our review over here. You can also check out our podcasts. They're up every Monday right now. There's a ton of new people that joined in, so thank you for listening and checking that content out there. So for any other movies that you're looking out in the theaters, stay tuned right here because we are always going to be trying to watch what's movie.
See you.